So today, we're diving into the really high-stakes confrontation brewing between the United States and Iran. But this isn't just about ships and missiles. Nope. This is a conflict that's being fought with powerful and totally opposing stories. It's a true war of words.
And that really brings us to the big question, right? Is this all just political posturing, a sort of global theater, or are we watching the curtain rise on a much bigger, much more dangerous conflict? The rhetoric is absolutely at a boiling point, so we're going to unpack what's really being said and what it could mean for all of us.
You see, we're watching two completely different stories play out in real time. From one side, you've got this super confident military-first narrative coming out of Washington. And on the other, a very urgent diplomatic push for de-escalation from pretty much the rest of the world. So let's start with the U.S. position.
Okay, so the official U.S. line is one of, well, overwhelming strength and success. It's a whole strategy built on this core idea that if you apply immense military pressure, you will ultimately force Iran to bend to your will.
And listen to this quote from President Trump. It just perfectly captures the sheer confidence of that U.S. stance. The language here is so telling, crushing. They don't know what's happening. I mean, it paints a picture of an adversary that's not just losing, but is in a state of total confusion. And this isn't just talk. It's backed up by a very specific and pretty coercive threat. The president mentioned over 3,500 additional targets ready to be hit very quickly. You know, a number like that isn't just pulled out of a hat. It is a crystal clear message designed to intimidate and to show overwhelming force. So, what's the endgame for all this pressure? Well, according to the White House, it's all about forcing Iran to come to the negotiating table, but from a position of weakness. The official story from the U.S. is that this strategy, it's already working. And this quote just hammers that claim home. I mean, the president isn't just saying Iran will negotiate eventually. He's claiming they're already begging for a deal. It's basically a declaration of victory for his strategy, even while Iran is publicly saying, no way. And it's not just the president pushing this story of a quick, decisive outcome. Other senior officials, like Senator Marco Rubio, have laid out this timeline suggesting the whole thing is a fast-moving operation. The key things to take away here are speed and a definitive result. A weaker Iran, and it's all supposed to happen in a matter of weeks, not months. Okay, so now let's completely switch gears and look at the international community, because they are telling a completely different story. While the U.S. is all about military objectives, the UN and the G7 are focused entirely on diplomacy and just calming things down. Just look at the UN's response. They've launched this new task force, but its mission? It has nothing to do with the military. It's all about mitigating the crisis and making sure essential goods like fertilizer, which is critical for food across the whole region, can get through. It's a purely humanitarian and economic move. And right here you can see the specific goals of the G7 and the UN. I mean, notice the language: safe and toll-free passage, protecting civilians, stopping attacks. It is a narrative completely focused on prevention and humanitarian issues, which is just a world away from the U.S. focus on military victory. So all of this tension, the military flexing on one side, the diplomatic push on the other, it all comes to a head in one critical choke point: the Strait of Hormuz. It's this incredibly vital waterway for global trade, and it's where these two strategies are meeting head-on. And here, you can just see the collision of these two worldviews perfectly. On the one hand, you have President Trump literally rebranding the waterway as the Strait of Trump. It's a personal, almost proprietary claim. On the other hand, you have the G7 using the formal language of international law, calling for safe and toll-free freedom of navigation for everyone. The difference in how they're framing this is just, wow, it's stark. And then, to add another layer of tension to this whole thing, Senator Rubio suggested that Iran might try to set up a tolling system, basically forcing ships to pay to get through. He called this plan not just illegal, but unacceptable, which really signals it as a potential red line for the U.S. and its allies. So, with all this going on, you have to wonder, are they even talking to each other? Well, according to the U.S., the answer is, it's complicated. Take a look at this. There has been absolutely zero official response from Iran to a 15-point U.S. plan. But officials do admit that some informal messages have been exchanged. That suggests that back channels might be open, even if formal diplomacy is totally frozen. So all this leaves us in a pretty dangerous standoff. You've got two fundamentally opposed strategies playing out in real time. The U.S. is betting everything on its campaign of maximum pressure, while the rest of the world is desperately trying to pull everyone back from the brink with diplomacy. And that really brings us to the final lingering question. In this high-stakes game of chicken, which path is going to win out? Will Washington's strategy of coercion actually lead to a deal? Or is diplomacy the only thing that's going to prevent a catastrophic conflict? Honestly, the future of this entire vital region is hanging in the balance.